My biggest problem was the dog, and her dog laid there and watched as I killed her. I needed to make it seem like we were better friends than we actually were, so that they wouldn't question my behavior with her.
In a shocking story of greed and betrayal, on December 2nd, 2016, 19-year-old Sara Stern was brutally strangled, killed, and robbed by two of her closest friends. Childhood friends she had known all her life. According to their confessions, Sara was killed in her home. Her body was put in the trunk of her car and driven out to the river where it was disposed of, and ever since then, her body has yet to be found. But what could have led to such brutality from her closest friends? Why did Sara's friends kill her? This is the disturbing case of Sara Stern. Born on March 24, 1997 in Neptune City, located in Monmouth County, New Jersey, Sara was welcomed into the world as a cherished and long-awaited child. Her birth was particularly significant because her mother faced certain health complications that prevented her from having more children. Consequently, Sara became the sole recipient of her parents' boundless love and attention. From a very early age, Sara was showered with the finest gifts and provided with exceptional care. Her parents went to great lengths to ensure her happiness and well-being. Her mother, understanding the importance of a secure future, established a savings account for Sara. The intention was to provide Sara with a financial cushion that she could use for any purpose she desired once she reached adulthood. This thoughtful act demonstrated the foresight and profound love her mother had for her, ensuring that Sara would have the freedom to pursue her dreams and aspirations without having to worry about finances. However, everything took a dark turn for Sara and her family in early 2013. At just 16 years old, Sara returned home from a friendly visit only to be confronted with devastating news. Her mother had passed away after a silent and private battle with cancer. This unexpected loss was a crushing blow for Sara, who had been unaware of the severity of her mother's illness. The news of her mother's passing plunged Sara into a deep and prolonged depression. The grief and sorrow she felt were overwhelming, affecting her mental and emotional well-being. Her friends and family quickly became concerned about her state, as they noticed significant changes in her behavior and mood. They worried deeply about her ability to cope with such a profound loss and feared for her mental health. Despite their efforts to support and comfort her, Sara struggled to find a way out of her despair, and her path to healing seemed uncertain. Fortunately, after some time, Sara gradually found the strength to move on, as she emerged from deep depression. She began reconnecting with her friends and slowly started to re-engage with the world around her. With a renewed sense of purpose, Sara began making plans for her future, determined to build a life that honored her mother's memory. One of her most significant aspirations was to gain admission to a prestigious university in the United States. However, before pursuing her academic dreams, Sara was determined to fulfill another long-held ambition: traveling around the world. Among the destinations she yearned to explore, Canada held a special place in her heart, as she had always wanted to visit and experience its unique culture and natural beauty. But everything took a tragic turn when Sara suddenly went missing. Her disappearance came as a shock to everyone, leaving her friends and family in a state of anguish and uncertainty. On the night of December 3rd, 2016, the police received an urgent call about an abandoned car left in the middle of the Belmar Bridge along Highway 35. The call came from a concerned taxi driver who had been on his way home when he spotted the vehicle parked at the side of the road. There was no sign of the owner anywhere nearby, which immediately raised his suspicions. The taxi driver, aware of the troubling reputation of the bridge as a site for suicides, feared the worst. He suspected that the car's owner might have come to the bridge with the intention of jumping, a tragic and unfortunately common occurrence in that area. His concern prompted him to contact the authorities in hopes of preventing a potential tragedy and to seek help for whoever might be in distress. Once the police arrived at the scene, they carefully examined the abandoned car on the Belmar Bridge. Finding no signs of a struggle, no blood, or any immediate clues suggesting foul play, they turned their attention to identify the vehicle's owner. Running the license plate, they discovered that the car was registered to one Lily Stern. The investigation then led the officers to visit Lily Stern's residence. Upon arrival, they learned that Lily Stern was an 86-year-old woman who had not driven for many years due to her deteriorating eyesight. The car was regularly driven by her granddaughter, Sara Stern. During their visit, Lily provided the police with crucial background information about the family. She explained that Michael Stern, a single father, had been raising Sara alone since his wife's death. Michael spent days away from home because of work, often leaving Sara alone at home. This revelation was significant, as it provided the police with a better understanding of Sara's home life and routines. Equipped with this new information, the police set out for Michael Stern's residence, hoping to locate Sara. They were now aware that she was likely the last person to have used the car, making her a key figure in understanding why it was abandoned on the bridge. Upon arriving at Michael Stern's home, the police knocked on the door, hoping for an immediate response. But after waiting for a while, they realized that no one was home, and to their surprise, the door was unlocked along with every other room in the house, except a room Sara's whining dog was locked in. But there was no sign of anyone at home. The pursuit of the truth about what happened to Sara led the police to reach out to her friends and classmates. That's when they met Liam McAtasney and Pristine Taylor, Sara's childhood friends. Sara, Preston, and Liam spent most of their days together and knew almost everything about each other. When they were questioned by the police about the whereabouts of Sara Stern, they pointed out the fact that despite her recent changes, she had still been showing some signs of depression and possible self-destruction, pointing to the idea that Sara might have jumped off the bridge and ended her life. Liam even went ahead to suggest that she might have fled to Canada without telling anyone, with the mindset that all her sorrows would disappear once she got there. But that theory was quickly dismissed by the police because her passport was still at her house and there was no way she could have left the country without it. Left with the option of a possible suicide, the police decided to run a thorough search around the bridge and in the water, hoping to find Sara's body. On hearing this, Sara's two closest friends immediately joined the search and urged more people to join in so they could find Sara's body. But even after many divers went in and over 150 people searched the water sides, there was no sign of Sara anywhere, leaving the police and Sara's family to wonder if Sara Stern was really dead. With no other leads to follow, the police had no other choice but to go back to the drawing board. They later realized that one of Sara Stern's friends, Liam, was way too cooperative during the investigation, and while being interrogated, his behavior felt almost perfectly scripted, which led the police to re-add him to their list of suspects and interview him a few more times, hoping to find out something new. During the course of the investigation, they found out that the day before Sara went missing, she and Liam were spotted by a security camera as they were entering the bank. When Liam was asked about that, he casually said that Sara had some cash in the bank and needed to make a withdrawal. But when he was asked why he didn't mention that detail in the past interviews, he just said it was something personal and he did not think the police would need to know about that. Despite coming this far, the police did not have any leads or evidence that pointed towards the whereabouts of Sara Stern, coupled with the known fact that as more time passed, the harder it became to find clues. But soon, things took a turn for the better when a character named Anthony Curry came into the mix. Anthony was a friend of both Liam and Sara Stern. Fortunately for the police, Anthony Curry voluntarily came to them with a story that would immediately pique their interest. Anthony, who was into film production and videography, told the police about an interesting story Liam McAtasney shared with him just weeks before Sara Stern vanished. The story was about a young girl who had inherited a lot of money from her parents. In the story, the girl shared the secret with her close friends, and immediately they found out they wanted the money for themselves. So they carved out a perfect plan, and when they were alone with her, they strangled and killed her, took the money, and threw her body down a bridge. Anthony said he didn't think much of the story until the recent incident concerning Sara. In fact, he thought it was a pretty creative and brilliant story to tell in a movie. But after his friend Sara disappeared, he thought it was worth mentioning to the police. After the police heard what Anthony said, they thanked him, but asked for one more favor from him. They asked if he could meet up with Liam McAtasney one more time in a car with cameras and mics installed, and make him talk. Though Anthony Curry was not sure if he could do it, he agreed to give it a try as long as it would help get justice for Sara Stern. Just as planned, Anthony Curry called Liam out to his car and told him he would like to work on a movie with him. But the cameras needed for that movie were way too expensive. To his surprise, Liam came with an envelope that contained about $2,000. When Anthony asked him where he got it from, he carelessly said that he got it from Sara's house, adding that the dead do not need money. This statement completely shocked Anthony, so he continued to inquire about what he meant by that. Finally, and to the surprise of Anthony, Liam McAtasney opened up and explained in detail how he convinced Sarah to withdraw all the money her mother left for her from the bank, and when he was alone with her, he brutally strangled her for 30 minutes straight.
Yeah, I got the FBI on my ass, dude.
What are they questioning?
Oh yeah, a lot.
About what?
About killing Sarah. I pretty much hung her, like, I picked her up and had her just, like, dangling off the ground, and she just pissed herself, and
you lose control of your
said
power.
my name, and then that was it. And it took me a half an hour to kill her. I thought I was going to be able to choke her out and have her out in, like, a couple minutes.
He explained how her dog just watched him do it, and after the deed, he needed to get to work, so he called Preston Taylor to help dispose of the body.
He goes to walk out the front door. I choke her out, drag her. My biggest problem was the dog, and her dog laid there and watched as I killed her. Didn't do anything. Her fucking dog. What kind of
dog?
Yeah, what kind of dog is that? I choke her out, drag her into the back, put her in a bathroom, and then I had to go straight to work. So Preston came over, took the body, put it in the bushes, and then I was at work. I had a full, night of work, except I left work a couple times, which looks sketchy.
Before Preston arrived, he left for work and instructed Preston to enter through the back door to avoid the security cameras from capturing him, and Preston did just that. With his detailed confession now on record, the police came to the scene and arrested Liam McAtasney. They later found and arrested Preston Taylor as well. The arrest of Liam McAtasney and Preston Taylor in February 2017 was the beginning of a complex legal journey in the case of Sarah Stern. Following their arrests, a series of court cases and hearings unfolded, each step bringing new revelations toward the pursuit of justice for Sarah Stern. Following their arrest, Liam McAtasney was charged with first-degree murder, robbery, and other related offenses. Preston Taylor faced charges of desecration of human remains, conspiracy, and hindering apprehension. Preliminary hearings saw the prosecution present critical evidence, including Liam McAtasney's recorded confession where he detailed the murder and robbery plot. The defense argued for dismissal, citing a lack of direct evidence, but their efforts were unsuccessful. In April 2017, a grand jury indicted both McAtasney and Taylor on multiple charges. McAtasney faced additional charges of felony murder and conspiracy, while Taylor was indicted for his role in helping to dispose of Stern's body. These indictments set the stage for the pre-trial phase, where both sides prepared for the upcoming legal battles. Throughout 2018, several pre-trial motions were filed by the defense. Among these were requests to suppress the recorded confession and to change the trial venue due to the extensive media coverage surrounding the case. The judge denied both motions, ruling that the confession was admissible in maintaining the trial location. These rulings were pivotal, as the confession was a critical piece of evidence for the prosecution. The trial of Liam McAtasney, held from January to February 2019, was a pivotal event in the pursuit of justice for Sarah Stern. This high-profile case drew significant media attention and community interest, as it involved the tragic death of a young woman and the betrayal by someone she considered a close friend. Sarah was brutally murdered by her friends, simply because she was rich. The prosecution presented a meticulously constructed case against Liam McAtasney, centered around a combination of direct evidence, witness testimonies, and forensic analysis. The key to their argument was a secretly recorded video confession made by McAtasney to an informant, Anthony Curry. In this recording, McAtasney chillingly details the premeditated nature of his plan to murder Sarah Stern. He described how he strangled her in her home, the subsequent robbery, and the disposal of her body off the Belmar Bridge. Prosecutors also called several friends and associates of McAtasney to the stand, including Preston Taylor, McAtasney's alleged accomplice. Taylor provided a comprehensive account of the crime, corroborating many details from McAtasney's confession. He testified about the meticulous planning that went into the crime, the execution of the murder, and the efforts to dispose of Stern's body. Taylor's testimony was particularly damning, as it highlighted McAtasney's motives and actions in a clear and coherent narrative. Forensic evidence further bolstered the prosecution's case. Investigators detailed their findings from Sarah Stern's car, abandoned on the Belmar Bridge. Although no one was ever recovered, evidence suggests that the car had been staged to make it appear as if Stern had committed suicide. The absence of significant forensic evidence in the vehicle itself pointed to a well-thought-out plan to avoid leaving traceable DNA or other incriminating materials. The defense faced an uphill battle, focusing primarily on discrediting the prosecution's key pieces of evidence. Central to their strategy was the argument that McAtasney's confession was coerced and should not be considered reliable. They claimed that the informant Anthony Curry had pressured McAtasney into making the statements, possibly exaggerating or fabricating details to secure a conviction. The defense suggested that Curry's involvement was motivated by personal gain or a desire to assist law enforcement for his own benefit. Additionally, the defense emphasized the lack of physical evidence directly tying Liam McAtasney to the murder. They argued that without Sara Stern's body or direct forensic links, the case against McAtasney was largely circumstantial. The defense sought to cast doubt on the reliability of the testimonies, particularly that of Preston Taylor, questioning his credibility and motives given his plea deal in exchange for a reduced sentence. Despite the defense's efforts, the jury found McAtasney guilty of all charges on February 26, 2019, after less than a day of deliberations. The charges included first-degree murder, robbery, and desecration of human remains. The jurors were evidently persuaded by the overwhelming evidence presented by the prosecution, particularly the detailed confession and the corroborative testimony of Preston Taylor. However, the case did not end there, as McAtasney pursued appeals, challenging various aspects of his trial and conviction. His defense team argued procedural errors and issues with the admissibility of the recorded confession, seeking to overturn the guilty verdict or secure a retrial. Preston Taylor explained that Sara Stern's inheritance, which Liam McAtasney mistakenly believed to be $100,000, was significantly less than that. Nonetheless, driven by his erroneous assumptions and the lure of quick wealth, Liam McAtasney began to devise a plan to steal the money for himself. The full extent of his cold-blooded intentions was laid bare during the trial, revealing a meticulously plotted crime that had been in the works for months. The trial exposed Liam McAtasney's elaborate scheme, rooted in his belief that Sara's inheritance represented a substantial fortune. This belief, though incorrect, fueled his desire to obtain the money through any means necessary. Testimonies and evidence presented during the proceedings exposed how Liam McAtasney had been planning the crime well in advance, demonstrating a chilling level of premeditation. According to the evidence, Liam McAtasney's plan involved luring Sara to her own home, where he would commit the murder and make it appear as if she had taken her own life. His close relationship with Sara allowed him to gain her trust, making it easier to orchestrate his sinister plot. Liam McAtasney's motive was driven purely by greed, showing a blatant disregard for the life of someone he had known since childhood. During the confession, his unemotional and detached recounting of the event illustrated his cold-blooded nature. He expressed no remorse for his actions, instead focusing on the practical aspects of the crime, such as how long it took for Sara to stop moving and how he handled her body afterward. The prosecution presented a strong case, supported by Liam McAtasney's recorded confession and the testimony of his accomplice, Preston Taylor. Taylor testified that after Sara's death, he and McAtasney disposed of her body by throwing it off the Belmar Bridge, staging her car to make it appear as though she had committed suicide. This testimony corroborated McAtasney's own account and painted a clear picture of their collaborative efforts to cover up the crime. Additionally, the prosecution introduced forensic evidence that, while not directly tying McAtasney to the physical act of murder, supported the narrative of premeditation and meticulous planning. The absence of defensive wounds on Sara and the state of the crime scene indicated that she had been taken by surprise, further confirming the calculated nature of McAtasney's actions. The detailed recounting of the murder and the evidence of McAtasney's lack of remorse had a profound impact on the jury. The prosecution's presentation left little doubt about Liam McAtasney's guilt and the monstrous nature of his crime. Despite the defense's efforts to cast doubt on the credibility of the confession and the lack of direct physical evidence linking McAtasney to the murder scene, the jury was convinced of his guilt. The trial of Liam McAtasney not only brought the light of the horrific details of Sara Stern's murder, but also showed the depths of human greed and callousness. Liam McAtasney's belief in a non-existent fortune led him to commit an unthinkable act against someone he had known and trusted for years. The meticulous planning and brutal execution of the crime, as revealed during the trial, painted a picture of a young man driven by greed and devoid of empathy. The entire court watched the clip where Liam McAtasney narrated how, after killing Sara, He called Taylor to assist with disposing of her body. They moved her body into her car and drove it to the Route 35 bridge in Belmar, a location chosen for its potential to make Sara's death look like a suicide. There, they threw her body over the bridge into the Shark River, hoping that it would never be found. The duo then abandoned Sara's car on the bridge with the key still inside to further support the suicide ruse. During the trial, McAtasney's defense argued that the recorded conversation was a work of fiction, suggesting that McAtasney was merely boasting about a crime he did not commit. However, the jury was not convinced by this argument. The combination of McAtasney's recorded confession, Taylor's testimony, and other circumstantial evidence painted a damning picture. Despite the defense's efforts, McAtasney was found guilty on all counts, including first-degree murder, robbery, desecration of human remains, and conspiracy. In June 2019, Liam McAtasney was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 10 years for the other charges. The judge cited the brutality and premeditation of the crime in delivering the harsh sentence, emphasizing the heinous nature of the offense and the betrayal of a close friend. Preston Taylor's legal journey took a different turn when he accepted a plea deal in June 2017. In exchange for his cooperation and testimony against Liam McAtasney, Preston Taylor received a reduced sentence. He pleaded guilty to charges of robbery, conspiracy, and desecration of human remains. Taylor's testimony was crucial in securing McAtasney's conviction. He provided detailed accounts of the planning and aftermath of the crime, shedding light on the roles both he and McAtasney played. In July 2019, Taylor was sentenced to 18 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 15 years, acknowledging his cooperation with the prosecution. Both McAtasney and Taylor have pursued appeals, challenging various aspects of their trials and sentences. As of now, Liam McAtasney remains incarcerated, serving his life sentence, while Preston Taylor is serving his reduced sentence with the possibility of parole. The court cases and hearings following the arrests of Liam McAtasney and Preston Taylor highlight the intricate and arduous process of seeking justice in the tragic murder of Sara Stern. The legal proceedings showed the importance of thorough investigation, the critical role of evidence, and the complexities of the judicial system. Through the determined efforts of law enforcement, prosecutors, and the community, justice for Sara Stern has been pursued, though the impact of her loss continues to resonate deeply. Sara Stern's body was never recovered, adding another layer of tragedy to the case. Her father, Michael Stern, expressed deep sorrow and frustration over the loss of his daughter and the inability to give her a proper burial. But for the sake of his daughter, he swore he would find a way to move on, because that's what Sara would have wanted. With that, we've come to the end of this video. Don't forget to leave some words of encouragement in the comments section for the family of the late Sara Stern.